This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Mapper Forward's first on-demand workshop, How to Become a Coffee Consultant. Available now online for you to learn at your own pace with a certificate available upon completion. Click the link in the show notes to access today for just €50. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 3 of a 5-part series with Aaron Atkinson. Aaron, we are talking about your role as a general manager in Blendin Coffee, which is a cafe and a roastery and a training center, and with a beautiful growth trajectory to continue just getting bigger and bigger. And in the last episode, we talked about staff retention. In this episode, we want to talk about personal and professional development for staff. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because the staff that are aging into our industry have a whole different ethos about what they need from an employer than, let's say, my generation, Gen X. So when I became a barista, it was after a corporate career, but I was still kind of in at that age group where it was Gen Xers that were working in cafes, and it was all about hustle and working hard and, not taking lunch breaks and never sitting down and all of that kind of stuff, right? The real hustle side of things. Everything has changed now. So now, I have business owners that that call me up and say, can you tell me why I need to high five my baristas every time they make a fucking espresso? Like, don't they understand that that's their job? What I'm trying to get them to understand is, like, cuddles and rainbows are a part of being in charge of a workforce, no matter what industry you're in now. So talk to me about, as a GM, how you approach personal and professional development for the staff that work for you, because I'm assuming that given that you talk about how heavily invested you are as a company in professional training for your staff, that this is a big deal for you guys, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It is something that we actively think about all the time, whether it's types of trainings that we can hold for the staff, things that can get them involved, not only, behind the bar, but get them outside of the bar, whether it's inside of the roastery or hosting workshops. So it's something that we try to hone in on in terms of understanding the employee and kind of what their own kind of ambitions are in the industry. So whether it's if they want to be a competitor in, the US Coffee Champs, or if they want to start a new workshop that we haven't developed yet. So that side of the professional development, we kind of have very open conversations about, what they would like to be seeing themselves do in the coffee industry. So as an employee.
And how does that conversation start? Is that during the onboarding process? Is that an annual review process? How does that work?
So we do have an annual review process where we kind of at the end of every year of employment, we'll sit down formally, have a conversation of, how the past year went. We even actually do a 90-day meeting as well after onboarding, just to kind of check in with them, see how they're doing, see how training went. So we do have the annual review process where we do learn a lot and get a lot of feedback from the previous year and kind of talk about what the trajectory is for that employee. But I'd say it's something that we visit throughout someone's employment as well. We make it very clear that if a barista is looking to learn something more, come to us, let us know, whether it's, hey, I really want to learn more about sample roasting. It could be, middle of the week, Tuesday, 3 p.m. And somebody has the idea, I saw something on Instagram, somebody roasting coffee, and I got really interested in it. Is there anything I can learn? Or they kind of come to us and say, hey, I'm really interested in this thing. And that kind of starts a conversation. So sometimes it happens like that. We have a lot of resources in terms of education. The owner, Wei Hong, he is an AST for the SCA. And we're fortunate that he can actually teach every module that the SCA offers from foundation to professional. So something that we actively do as well is teach the SCA courses to the baristas. So we get together as a staff, if someone hasn't taken barista and we kind of have a group of people that still need barista foundation, we'll get together, post that course for them. So it's pretty regular that you see kind of someone doing a formal type of education like that as well, through the SCA. But I'd say, it starts with a conversation kind of just throughout their employment of where do you see yourself going in the coffee industry? How can we help you get there? What are some things that you can do kind of maybe on your own time? We have a small library of coffee books and resources in our roastery. And so it isn't uncommon that you see a barista get off their shift and then go grab a book and start reading more about the water quality standards. So just small things like that, and kind of staying in tune to what people are looking for in their own personal development. And then being honest about like the resources that we have, that we're able to give them to kind of help achieve that. Or if it's not something that we actively have a resource or have a resource for at the time, it's not also uncommon for us to bring in somebody else in the industry. Most recently, we had Benjamin Put from Canada and Monogram Coffee. He came down and did a few days workshops with us. We've had the 2019 World Brewers Cup champion, Du Jianing from China. We actually closed the shop for a few days and just had brewing training. So it's things like that. And if we don't have the resources, like I said, we've brought people in to kind of, teach us, give us their perspective on things. We've had several kind of people brought in to do trainings like that as well.
Tell me, I hear a complaint that I hear a lot from cafe owners and general managers is I don't know how to motivate my staff to want to get training or to want to improve. Like I had a cafe owner recently say, I have a library of books. Half of it is coffee stuff. The other half is personal development stuff. Now, every book they complete, I will increase their pay 25 cents an hour.
Wow.
And the process is they read the book, they sit down with him for a meeting and they have to have a conversation about the book for at least an hour to prove that they've done it. And I said to him, how is it going? And he said 0 employees have taken him up on that offer. He said he's tried everything. So tell me, as a general manager, how do you motivate people to want to invest in their own development, personal and professional?
That's a good question. I've been fortunate enough that a lot of my employees are pretty self-motivated. So I know that is not the norm. But if I had to kind of...
Do you think it's at interview? Like you have to select the kind of people that are already in that frame of mind from the get-go?
I don't think it's necessarily, obviously everyone in an interview will tell you that they're the most motivated person in the world. Right. So I don't know if it can really be kind of fleshed out during that process. But I think what's really important in when it comes to motivating employees is being realistic about the opportunities that are available to them. I think maybe, it could be discouraging for someone to do all of this work and say, we really want you to learn X, Y, Z and get there. And then they may get to the point, but then they may not really have gotten anything out of it. Or, obviously monetary incentive is one thing, but if someone is, say, promised a position or something once they complete these things, just being realistic about what those opportunities are and a timeline is really important as well. So some of that is difficult conversations in, especially with a smaller business, is that we may not have those types of opportunities at this very moment in time.
Okay.
But when those opportunities pop up, you got to be ready to take them. You got to, do the necessary things to get you to that point. So when the timing is right, and the growth is there, being able to be ready for it. You don't want to get to the point and then not done, the things necessary to be able to step into a new role, for example. So whether it's, I guess that's a good way to put it, is just making sure that you're being honest with the timeline and
managing expectations,
and just kind of being realistic with those. And I think when you do that, your staff will trust that when you tell them, hey, if you buckle down for this next 3 months, there's a roasting opportunity that's coming up, but we really want, maybe you can attend some cuppings and just get familiar with what we're doing and things like that. I think it will go a long way in getting someone motivated, because they can see, something will come to fruition, and they can trust that you're going to be able to deliver on those promises.
And I guess the life cycle and the flow of a cafe is very far removed. The reality of that is very far removed from the flow of an individual employee. A lot of the time people expect that things happen much quicker than they actually do in the business life cycle. And so managing the expectations of an employee so that they understand that just because they've wished it and hoped it and prayed it, that they'll become, the store manager. There may be a whole bunch of other factors that are required to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that could pop up out of nowhere that could throw some of the timelines off. So that's not uncommon. But yeah, just managing those expectations.
In the next episode, folks, we're going to talk about cultivating the best professionals. This is going to be a really interesting conversation, because I think the role of the coffee professional has changed vastly over the last decade. Even though we might be thinking that, a barista is just a barista and a coffee roaster is just a coffee roaster, the whole profession's changed. So we're going to explore that in the next episode from the perspective of a GM. Join us for that. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Peace, love, and peanut butter, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.